Hey everyone, Miles with Hamilton Dog Training. In this video, we are covering thresholds. Thresholds are such a simple thing to train that could literally save your dog's life. We train this to every single dog, all right? So in this video, we're gonna cover what thresholds are, why we train it, how we train it. We're gonna give you 3 different examples of thresholds and how we train it, and then some important things to remember as you're training it with your dog, all right? So, what are thresholds? Well, thresholds are simply invisible walls or barriers in the environment that the dog cannot cross without your permission. If they cross without permission, there is a consequence. So let me give you an example of a threshold. Your front door, for example, is a common threshold. This is the first one that we train. When we open the front door, the dog isn't allowed to just fly out of the front door. Just because the door is open doesn't mean they can go out. They must wait until they hear our release word, okay, or break, or whatever release word you're using. Another example for us, we train the crate door as a threshold. When the dog is in their crate, we open the crate door, they're not allowed to just fly out. Just because the crate door is open doesn't mean you get to fly out. You see? A car door for us is a threshold. When you open the car door, they're not allowed to fly out. This can be applied to anything. It can be applied to your couch. It can be applied to your kitchen if you don't want your dog in your kitchen. It can be applied to your fence in your backyard, your garage door when it's open, whatever it is. All of these things can be trained as thresholds. All right? They're just invisible walls or barriers in the environment. Dog can't cross without permission. That's it. Okay? So that's what thresholds are. Now, why do we train thresholds? Well, we train thresholds for 2 reasons. The first reason is from a safety standpoint, all right? Chances are if you have a dog, you or someone you know or someone they know has had a dog who's escaped the house, right? And they've gone on this wild, dangerous chase around the neighborhood trying to get the dog back or worse, right? So just from a safety standpoint, we train all dogs threshold, especially front door thresholds, okay? Now, obviously, if you live in a rural environment, if you've got like acres of land around you, then obviously this doesn't apply to you, right? But the vast majority of our clients live in urban areas, suburban areas, apartments, busy neighborhoods, on busy streets with lots of stuff going on, and you don't want your dog flying out of the front door, right? That could be a very dangerous situation that you've now put them into, right? So from a safety perspective, that's the first reason. The next reason is just from a convenience standpoint, right? Just from a convenience standpoint, it's convenient to have a dog who you know isn't going to fly at the front door. Like, for example, if it's a nice day outside, you've got lots of people out, you know, the doors are open, wind's blowing in the house, barbecue going on, you know your dog isn't gonna fly out the front door. It's just convenient to know that, right? You know your dog is in the car, you know, car door's open, you're doing something, you know they're not gonna fly out. When we lived in an apartment building with Orbit, and we're walking down the stairs, right? It's convenient for him to wait at every square before he goes down the next flight of stairs. It's convenient, right? He waits for us, he waits till he hears the release word, that we don't have to worry about him running into someone or getting out of sight of us, right? It's convenient. It's easy to have a dog who's like that. Like you come inside, grocery bags in hand, you know your dog isn't flying out the garage door or whatever, right? So it's convenient. So that's why we train it, all right? Safety and convenience. So how do we train thresholds? Well, training thresholds is very simple once you understand 2 things about dogs. The first thing you have to understand is that dogs are non-verbal communicators, all right? Dogs are non-verbal communicators. The second thing you have to understand is that dogs are consequence-based learners. All right, so what do these 2 things mean? Well, the first thing, dogs are nonverbal. This means no amount of explaining or talking or speaking to your dog is going to get them to change their behavior. A lot of people make this mistake. They communicate to the dogs as if they were kids or something, right? Dogs are not kids. This basically means that in order to communicate with your dog, you are going to have to communicate with them physically. The next thing, dogs are consequence-based learners. Consequence-based learning is one of the ways dogs learn. This is also called, if you're in our course, you know this is called operant learning, which is what's on the back of my shirt. But for those of you who aren't in the program or you don't understand this, it's basically all it means is your dog does something, all right? Your dog does something. Then something happens. That something that happens is either good or it's bad. Whether it's good or bad, that something is going to influence whether or not they do this thing again. And that's it, right? That's consequence-based learning in a nutshell, okay? So understanding or putting these two things together, what do we get? Well, in order to teach our dog that, okay, you can't step out of the front door without our permission, we're gonna have to apply a physical consequence to that behavior. That's it. So to run you through an example, if I open the front door and the dog goes to step out, I'm going to attach a nonverbal, a physical consequence to the behavior of stepping out of the door without permission. All right? So the moment the dog steps out, I'm going to mark the behavior with ah, and I'm gonna make pressure. I'm gonna make pressure on the leash, attached to the prong, like you'll see in the video with Arrow, or you can make spatial pressure. You can close in on the dog, ah, and make social pressure in, spatial pressure. But you're attaching a physical consequence to the behavior, all right? You're communicating to the dog in a way that they understand, to the behavior you're trying to change. All right, so that's basically what you do. And we'll show you how to do this. If this sounds very complicated, don't worry, it's not. We'll show you how to do it in 3 different examples, and you'll see it's very simple. Now you'll notice when I go through those 3 examples, I'm not telling the dog to do something else. I'm not telling them to sit. I'm not telling them to wait. I'm not telling them to look at me. I'm not telling them to stay. I'm not doing that. The reason why I'm not doing that is because I don't want them to sit, look at me, or stay. I just want them to not walk out the front door without permission. So you see you'll see a lot of people do these things like reinforcing all of these alternate behaviors instead of just addressing the behavior you're actually trying to change, right? Because for me, I'm not always gonna be in a situation where the dog is looking at me at the front door. Sometimes I'm not at the front door. Sometimes the front door is just open. Sometimes the door is open, I'm out in the car getting groceries, whatever, and the door is just open, right? He's not in a look at me or anything like that. I just want him to know he can't cross that without permission. That's it. Very simple, right? So that's how we train it. Now let's go through 3 examples so you can see it applied in action.
So here I'm training door thresholds with Arrow. I open the front door, he goes to step outside, I mark it with ah, and then I make directional pressure back on the leash until he's inside. I just attached a non-verbal physical consequence to the behavior of stepping out without permission. For those of you wondering, Arrow's on a 6-foot leash attached to his prong collar. Don't do this on a prong unless you've already completed the prong collar conditioning and the loose leash walking. So now I'm just making this picture very clear for him. I'm letting him know in a way that he understands this is a threshold. You cannot cross it without permission. All right, here he gets a reward. Here I'm using food as a competing reinforcer now. So I'm throwing food outside, which he can't get because that's past the threshold. And I'm giving him food inside, which is behind the threshold. Here he steps out, so he gets a correction. And now I'm just making the picture very clear for him. You see, I'm showing him the same picture in different ways to help him generalize and help him understand what this threshold is now.
Good.
So I'm throwing food outside. Very good. I close the door. He comes back inside. I open the door again. Very good. I throw food outside. Nice. Throw food inside. He gets it. You see? So I'm making it very clear. Now, before I let him outside, I'm going to go out, pick up all this food because I don't want him getting reinforcement from all that food I just was teaching him to ignore. Now I'm going to close the door again. I open it up. He gets a reward. Very nice. And then I release him through the door.
Down.
So that's how you train door thresholds.
Good boy. All right, guys, I'm gonna show you how we train crate thresholds. So it's pretty simple. All you do is when you open it, you just make pressure if the dog steps out. So you can make spatial pressure, close in on the dog. You can just make pressure with the door, right? So you just open the door. If they come to step out, you just close the door in their face. And you just make pressure when they come out, basically is it. And then when they're in there, you give them praise, and then they come out once you give them their release word, which for us is gonna be okay. So I'll show you how to do that quickly. He already knows this, so he might not do it. Let's see if he makes a mistake. Perfect. This is a weird context for him. I'd never open the crate like this, right? Good. Good boy. Good. Good job. And then if you want to make it real clear, you can have some treats in your hand as well. And then you can do this when you open it. Good. Good boy. Nice crate. Right? And so he's not allowed to come out. Just because the crate door's open doesn't mean he just gets to fly out of the crate, right? That's all we're trying to teach him. Good. Now let's switch it up a little bit. Ah. Good. Good crate. All right, different context.
Nice. Good. Good boy. Nice job, Arrow. Very nice. Good crate. Good. Good. Nice. Good boy. Good. Good boy. Good crate. Good. And then once he's waiting in there and he's good, then very good. All you do is you give him the release word now. Okay. Okay. And now you can come out. Good job, buddy. Good job.
All right, so here's how you train car door thresholds. It's the same. So imagine you pull up to a new place, you're gonna do some training, you pull up to a new distracting park, your dog is in the car, they're all excited, they know they're at the park, they're ready to come out. Here's what you do. You don't want them flying out of the front door, right? Or out of the car door. So what you do is you open it. Good, good boy. Nice job, Arrow. Nice job. Good. I know a lot of you guys, if you use the crate, then obviously it's just a crate threshold, but I know a lot of you guys have dogs just loose in the back seat, right? Good boy. Nice job. Nice, buddy. Very nice. Very nice. Good. Nice job. Good job, Arrow. Just like how the crate, you know, like when the dog comes to come out, like if they try to stick their nose out here, I'll just close the door on them. Right, like this. You can also use spatial pressure, like you open the door like this, you close in very quickly, like that, or you can grab the leash quickly and make pressure back. Right, but just pressure any way that's easiest to apply, and then you just reinforce the dog for being in here. So very, very similar to the crate, right? Good job. Good job, buddy. Nice. And then once you're ready to get out, all his gear's on, he's ready. Good boy. Okay, down. Good job, buddy. Good job. Nice. Okay. And then you can go out on your walk and do a little warm up, all of that stuff. But that's how you train car door thresholds. All right, guys. So now that you've seen how we train it, now let's go over some important things to remember as you are training this with your dog at home. So the first thing I want you to remember is consistency. All right, consistency. Like in all of dog training, consistency is an important aspect of training thresholds. Your dogs are very context-based, right? If you go out and you train thresholds to the front door, your dog just learned that in that isolated training session, they weren't allowed to step out the front door without your permission. Does this apply tomorrow? Does this apply in the morning? Does this apply at nighttime? Does this apply next week, next month? Does it still apply? Does it apply when someone's outside? Right? Does it? Your dog doesn't know. And so it's up to you to stay consistent with this new rule that you have set. In your mind, I want you to create a new rule for your dog. From this day forward, now that we've trained thresholds, this is something that we always enforce. It's a new expectation. Every time, if the door is open, you've got to wait until you hear permission from me before you're allowed to cross the door, right? So that's consistency. The next aspect of the training is proofing. All right? Like with all behaviors in dog training, you must proof the behavior. A lot of people get into this trap of, it's almost like a false sense of security. Like your dog is pretty good maintaining the thresholds. They pretty much always wait until they get hit with some weird scenario or edge case in there, right? Something weird happens. Oh, you open the front door and like, man, there's like these two dogs just walking right in front. Oh, there's a squirrel that just runs right in front of up the tree, right in front of your house, right? Oh, there's a person there, there's a dog barking at them, whatever it is. These weird edge cases, these are all things that you must proof if you want the behavior to be reliable. So in the training, once you've taught the behavior, like how we showed you earlier, then you must proof the behavior. And what you need to ask yourself is, what situation, what context could I possibly put the dog in that might get them to break this threshold? What could I do? Okay, maybe you have a dog who really likes chasing squirrels. All right, well, that's gonna be pretty tough to replicate, right? You're not gonna be able to get the squirrel to help you out with training, but maybe you can do something else. Maybe you've got a ball with you. You can open the door, the dog doesn't even see the ball, and you just throw the ball straight out. Oh, Do they catch themselves or do they break straight out? Right? Now, it's not exactly the same picture as the squirrel, but when you show them that picture, it can help them generalize it to when they are presented with the squirrel or whatever weird situation you can think of, okay? So proofing the behavior. Also, when you're proofing the behavior, you're gonna have to increase the level of pressure that you're using. You have to. You must do that, right? When you first train the behavior, you're using very low levels of pressure because the dog isn't quite sure what you want. They're not quite sure what you expect of them. And so you use very low levels of pressure just to teach it. But once the dog knows it, and once you're proofing it, then you increase the level of pressure that you're using. You make it more of a consequence for breaking that threshold. All right? So those are just two things to remember: consistency and always proof the behavior. And that's it. That's how we train thresholds. All right, guys, hope this helps.